Alright my friends, and now for the tale of the tape in today's Community Showdown. We have the Warriors of Chaos, who shall be led by the Extreme Memer, aka Zardar Total War, and he looks to be facing off against the Bretonnians. Actually, it's actually going to be Rapunzel's sub-faction, who shall be led by Flying Taco, which does, of course, open up Henri Le Massif, as well as Rapunzel, but Rapunzel you can use with standard Bretonnia. Pretty much the only thing it does unlock is Henri Le Massif, and he's still really good. He has anti-large, he has armor piercing, he causes terror, so basically you can have these two giant terror-causing single entities. You have Henri and a Bretonnian Lord, which is basically Walmart King Lewin, but nonetheless you still do have some pretty decent punch here. Now for the Forces of Chaos here in the front line, it is going to be Chaos Marauders. Obviously against Bretonnia you don't really need the best troop quality. 34, 28, 28 is going to be more than enough to fight against peasant mobs and spearmen at arms and men at arms. Granted, foot squires will win in a straight fight against marauders, but aside from that, marauders put up a pretty good fight, and they can actually put some hurt onto the foot squires simply because the melee defense on foot squires is only 20, incredibly low stuff. So for the rest of the army here, it's going to be a pretty tight formation, a lot of chaos warped monsters. Granted, we are in the central chaos waste, so it certainly makes sense, but it is going to be Spawn and the weird Spawn here in the middle. And Spawn, they're pretty good at just crumping through masses of trash. So basically, if you have a bunch of peasants and men at arms and things like that, they can cut through them pretty quick, and they have good enough mass to actually block cav charges. Now, the Warriors of Chaos, their variant of the Chaos Spawn does not have poison, so unfortunately, you're not going to get that caveat against like knights, because it's really nice for beastmen. If they come in with like some questing knights, you poison them, you can slow them down, it can actually lead to a lot more damage. But a couple Spawn, it does give Chaos a pretty good unbreakable sustainability in the frontline fight. So in total, it's going to be 3 Spawn. The weird Spawn, of course, do have Armor Sunderings. If you guys haven't seen them, they're not a terribly common pick with these disgusting. It looks to be blessed by Tzeentch, if anything, based on the color scheme here. They do have Armor Sundering, which is quite nice. So if you're facing off against Bretonnian Knights, you're going to be able to put their armor down to like 50 or 60, depending on the variant of Knights. And then from there, your Mirror Guard and other troops can actually hurt them. Prince Sigvald is going to be here, the Magnificent One. Certainly probably a little bit unhappy to be here with these grotesque beasts, as he is the Prince of Perfection here. But the Meme Lord himself has cometh with his Auric armor, so he of course can heal, and he's very tough to snipe. But still, Sigvald is nowhere near being a competitive pick, but he has some teeth, because again, it's really hard to kill him, but usually you just ignore Sigvald. We have a Deathcaster as well here for the Forces of Chaos. It is going to be Spirit Leech and the Purple Sun, Won't You Come and Wash Away the Peasants. On top of that, we do have 2 groups of the Dragon Ogre Shaggoths, as well as Chaos Warhounds with Poisons. Nice little army for sure. Now for the Forces of Flying Taco and Bretonnia, he's got a Lord. He does also have Henri Le Massif, so pretty good, anti-monster capabilities. Henri has anti-large. The Bretonnian Lord doesn't have anti-large, but he's got decent melee attack, a good charge bonus, and good weapon strength overall. And it does also look like he is wielding the Sword of Antiheroes. I think that's what that's called. Let's go ahead and check. I haven't seen like anyone play like a non-Lewin Fey Enchantress, Alberic pick in like ages. So it is the Sword of Antiheroes. Yeah, it gives them weapon damage and AP. Certainly not bad against Chaos. For the rest of the line, it's going to be standard Bretonnia, just men-at-arms and spears, just to kind of take a beating and target the Forces of Chaos. And in the back, he actually has a Foot Squire Corps. So in total, there are going to be 3 Foot Squires, and so just Foot Squires in the back. And these guys, they do well against standard Chaos Infantry. They trade, upward against Chaos Warriors and can do well. They have a bonus for infantry, they have good AP, so certainly not bad here. Granted, there's not a lot of troop quality in the Chaos Army, and some of the ways that Chaos used to play this matchup was spamming halberds, so using Chosen with halberds and basically just stacking Shaggoths on top of them. So the Foot Squires are a decent answer because they do actually trade rather effectively against the Chosen with halberds. Because again, Chosen have a slower attack rate with halberds, and you guys get the picture. So we have the Companions here in the back, and it looks like another group of Questing Knights. These guys are probably better than Grail Knights and Knights of the Realm in this matchup because, yeah, they do well against like bigger targets on the Chaos roster because they have decent combat stats, and they do also have really good AP values, which is super important in the Chaos matchup. If you look at Sigvald, he's got 110. If you look at the Shaggoths back here, they're rocking 70. So you need AP across the board. And just in time for the fight, guys, let's get this show on the road and have some fun. So Bretonnia is going to be falling back a little bit. A nice little gooning strike coming in here from our boy. I was about to say our boy Alberic, but it's not him. It's actually just a Lord, as well as Henri. So they come in there and they get a little bit of damage. We'll call him Sir Gregor Clegane for the sake of this battle. Getting some decent damage, taking out 7 of the Marauders, and it looks like also baiting out a Spirit Leech. Granted, it's not really a bait per se because it still does the damage. It's not like an enfeebling foe, which would be wasted right now in the retreat. So it still gets some pretty decent value. Now, peasants are going to start getting massacred here by the Chaos Spawn, as expected. They got their pitchforks. There's just some very eager peasants. Like, I feel like even if the peasant mobs, like, let's just say, like, in a realistic, it's Warhammer Fantasy. Comparing it to realism is just absurd. But, I mean, I feel like they would just run as soon as they saw those things. Nonetheless, here we do have the Spearmen advancing in to fight the Chaos Marauders. Some of the Spawn are going to be surging in as well. And this is going to be a tough fight for the Foot Squires for sure. Their armor is going to get sundered here by the Weird Spawn. And on top of that, the Mirror Guard have really good stats. So with the Armor Sunder, they're going to be really squishy down to 40, and Mirror Guard will cut them to shreds, and you can basically see the Foot Squires are just getting crumbed horribly. Now, Questing Knights do get a countercharge here, and get some okay damage here on the weird spawn, and will give a nice melee buffering here. A Purple Sun going down in the back, but it gets a bit of an unfortunate rotation, going away from the main fight. So had it gone this way or this way, it probably would have buckled the entire Bretonnian line. Ooh, now, very bad situation here for the Bretonnians. The Questing Knights come in with a countercharge to try and free up the situation, but the Lord does have regrowth and Scroll of Shielding, but he gets a little bit surrounded by Poison Hounds and Spawn, as well as Double Shaggoth. And man, he's taking a lot of damage now. So the Lord needs to get away. I mean, if the Lord just goes down here, it's probably going to be a rather quick victory here for the forces of Chaos. But nonetheless, it looks like the Lord has gotten away. The Hounds are being microed independently to go after him, it looks like, and try and get a bit of a surround. But the Lord is doing a little bit of juking, and he should be able to get away here. And is still, of course, being healed by Regrowth as well as Earthblood. So he'll get back up to full health more or less. Pretty close. But the issue being is now he's not at his healing cap. So any damage he does take from here on out is going to be permanent. Some of the Questing Knights that did help out in this engagement are now bouncing back in, going after Spawn, and I wonder how they do against Spawn. I mean, they still have an okay charge bonus, so should do okay there. And in the back, a lot of Bretonnians are running. You can see peasants and men-at-arms kind of running for the hills. Up in the sky, though, Henry, as well as the Chaos Lord, or not the Chaos Lord, the Bretonnian Lord, are going to be jumping in for a gooning attempt here on the Shaggoth, which isn't bad. They do, of course, have the support of some of the Questing Knights here, some of which are the companions who do have anti-large and AP, so this is a pretty good hold for Bretonnia. Certainly going to give them some opportunities to cycle charge. They can leave the companions in there, which are all on good targets. They can pull back and forth, and honestly, probably trying to assassinate this caster would be the best choice. It's very vulnerable. It's on a horse, which means it's going to be taking a lot of damage on impact. Usually doesn't get knocked over. And yeah, that's what's going to be happening now. So the Bretonnian Lord coming in, Sir Gregor Clegane flying up in the sky, maybe looking to rear charge a Shaggoth. A little bit scary though, if he does get turned around on by these Shaggoths, he could get taken to Pound Town pretty quick. But nonetheless, not a bad idea. One Shaggoth is quite low, so if we take a big look at the battlefield, Bretonnia does have a bit of a resurgence coming back in. A lot of the men-at-arms and the Foot Squires are kind of making their way back to the battle, but Chaos is doing pretty well in this sustained fight. The Spawn are in okay shape, able to munch through the men-at-arms. The Weird Spawn are in okay shape. Mirror Guard, of course, in impeccable shape for this point in the battle. 64 kills, 59 models. These guys are no joke right now, and that's going to be a really tough pocket for Bretonnia to break. Granted, it does look like they get the Death Caster, so I think the caster for the Forces of Chaos is gone, so no more Spirit Leeches, which is really good, because the Bretonnian Lord is incredibly low. Spirit Leeches at this point in the battle would be super impactful. So the Lord getting up and around, looking for some opportunities to dive in here, but really there's not too many. There's, normally in this circumstance, you'd like to charge him with the Lord and Henry and basically just look for like good opportunities where you have some buffering. You have some spears or some peasants fighting, but in this case, Chaos is very centralized, and if they land, there's not really too many Bretonnians buffering on the ground, which means they're going to be taking some heavy beatings. So some of the Spawn bouncing outward to try and take out the Spearmen at arms. Bretonnia pretty much in a mass exodus. Currently, as it stands, the balance of power is in the favor of the Warriors of Chaos. The Bretonnian Knights are falling back. You can see the Companions are here, and also Questing Knights here. So in total, what do we have? 27, so we have 38 Knights, which has some decent fighting power for sure. And when the Bretonnians rally, it could perhaps normalize the balance of power, and there is the flying advantage. So the Bretonnians, of course, do have this flying air force, so maybe if they can pick apart a lot of the kind of high-mass units like the Spawn, it's going to give their cycle charging a lot more punch. And of course, there's Sigvald on the other side, so you don't have to worry too much about him. Nonetheless, the Lord's going to be pulling back. Sword of Anti-Heroes is activated in that temporary combat, and some of the Questing Knights did charge in here, but they're going to be meeting their doom at the end of these warp monstrosities, or I guess Northern Chaos Waste. I guess they come from the warp originally, right? Whatever demonic possession action is going on, who knows? So those Knights are taken out here, so we have 7 going down. These Knights are going to be falling back, and now we have the resurgence of Bretonnia to a small extent. So some of the peasants are coming back in. We have men-at-arms, the damsels back as well, and Henry could use some healing. He's nowhere near his healing cap, so if there is some Winds of Magic, that could be quite impactful. There it goes right there. The Lord obviously at its healing cap, and it looks like Sword of Anti-Heroes is activated once again, or maybe it just wore off. I think it was from before. But they're trying to goon out a Shaggoth, which is pretty much the only chance Bretonnia has here. If they can get their Lords and goon out a Dragon Ogre Shaggoth here, they might have a way to get back in the game, but aside from that, it's looking pretty grim bones. There's a lot of Spawn left. I mean, there's only 3 here, but I believe the Weird Spawn are still in okay shape. Where are those guys? Yeah, they're still in pretty decent shape. They have 8 models and some HP left. So here the Bretonnians coming in with more spears. It looks like the Lord has fallen back, and some of these brave Foot Squires are actually holding to the bitter end and really giving the buffer. And like I said, the Spawn are now attacking Foot Squires. It gives the cycle charging opportunity to Henry as well as the Bretonnian Lord to get in there and really do some work. And yeah, my apologies if I'm just, I know it's pronounced differently, but I'm just saying it because it's easier for me in casting, and you guys get the picture. So the Lord charges in here. Maybe Terror Routes could come into play. Marauders are not immune to psychology. Of course, Dragon Ogre Shaggoths cause terror, therefore they can't be terror routed. And of course, the Spawn are unbreakable. So it's going to be really tough to kind of crack this pocket here. And you can see the Bretonnian Lord, he's no King Lewin. He's going to get forced back, no sort of Crone or big juicy buffs. And now it's looking like this might be the end of days here for Bretonnia. as Henry is basically fighting alone, fully surrounded. He does have a charge from the companions coming in for one last final stand here against the forces of chaos. Will the massive one, the mountain that rides, Sir Gregor La Massif, will he be able to carry this game? Probably not. I think Sigvald is going to be too much. Not something you hear terribly often. The Mirror Guard are numerous, and the Dragon Ogre Shaggoths are in really good shape. Granted, stranger things have happened for sure. The Bretonnian Lord has come back. One Dragon Ogre Shaggoth is very, very beat up, and the Damsel here is going to be going in here, but she's going to be getting hammered pretty hard by the Dragon Ogres. Those guys do not mess about. And you can see the Damsel of Life. Stand your ground, of course, providing some nice, little buffs here, but yeah, you can see the bounce power is almost point of no return. The Damsel's karate chopped here by these two Shaggoths, and the Bretonnian Lord falls, and the massive one is going to go back to her ponce and probably tell her tales of these foul chaos monstrosities in the north before she returns on her crusade. And well played to those two players. It was a really fun game. A bit of a different build from what I'm used to. I mean, old school Chaos and like back in the day against Bretonnia was just like halberds with Shaggoths, but Spawn have obviously gotten a lot of buffs in the past, like, I don't know, probably like the past like 2 or 3 patches. I can't remember when it happened, but they got some decent buffs to their combat prowess and their sustainability and things like that. So, I mean, through melee defense, you guys get it. But yeah, the Spawn did pretty good, blocking up the Bretonnian cab charges, giving mass and really helping to mulch through all the chaff. The Shaggoths are pretty self-explanatory. Those things are just excellent against Bretonnia. Really good against the Knights, great against the Lords. And it's interesting because, you know, a lot of the Chaos Lords can be sniped rather easily. I mean, even Archeon, who is a pretty powerful combatant, can go down somewhat quickly. Kolek is a little bit more susceptible to cycle charging. And getting a character like Sigvald does open up opportunities for more expensive units. You can have like more elite troops, just like it would be in tabletop fantasy or 40k. If you have a cheap, HQ choices, you're able to have more troops and elite elements in your army and things like that. So I still wouldn't say Sigvald's the most competitive, but nonetheless, like, or not the most competitive. He's not, I wouldn't say he's competitive at all. But, he still isn't like absolutely terrible because he has regeneration. Now, Footlords that don't have any way of healing, it can be a little bit tricky, but, our boy Sigvald, he did great today. And, 22 kills and he didn't die. So let's give him props for that. Deathcaster is a good choice for sure. I like it. But Flying Taco did a really good job gooning out the caster. But yeah, it was kind of hard to deal with the Shaggoths. The Questing Knights I found, even though they do have some decent punch against those guys, I found that like it's really hard to get value from like Questing Knights against like big single entities like in a quick fashion. If you're in like the late game and it's a full surround, you can. But yeah, I've really had trouble with that. And I think that's why so many Bretonnian players in matchups like this and against like Tomb Kings are always relying on like Gotrek. Gotrek is so good. Like in this matchup, Gotrek would have been able to put some serious hurt on Dragon Ogre Shaggoths. Gives you more kind of punch in the main line. He could probably honestly beat Sigvald in combat. So, I think that's probably the way to go. But obviously, Flying Taco is just kind of messing around with the sub-faction, trying out some fun stuff with Henri and all that. So, anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed the showdown between Chaos and Bretonnia. Extreme Memer, Zardar Total War. Make sure to check out his YouTube channel if you haven't. Also, Flying Taco does stream over on Twitch. We'll try and give you guys a link in the comment section below. And on that note, guys, thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you guys on the other side. Take care.